Hello, welcome back to another episode of Cooking for the Yum of It. I am your very attractive host, Wesley, and today we will be preparing a cream of cauliflower soup with a garnish of caviar and fresh chives. Let's get started. Now, one of the reasons this is going to be such a wonderful dish is it's a very simple and easy to prepare. It doesn't have all that many different ingredients. We've got the cauliflower, of course, one medium-sized onion, and some chicken broth. We'll also be adding some onion salt, which I'm going to be using from now on as much as possible as a salt substitute, and of course some black pepper. Now, the first thing we have to do is trim and chop our cauliflower. Now, this is a rather large cauliflower. It was about 3 pounds worth, and that's going to take a long time to clean and chop. So let's skip ahead with a little bit of camera magic, abracadabra. And there we have it, approximately 3 pounds of cauliflower chopped into 1-inch pieces, which we will now be putting into our slow cooker before moving on. I remember when I was a kid, I wasn't all that fond of cauliflower. I thought it looked like brains, and I didn't want to eat them. But then, you know, someone, I don't remember if it was my grandma or my great-grandmother, told me that cauliflower, because it was brain food, because it looked like brains, and it would make me smarter. I sometimes wonder if it's true, if they ever regretted that, making me even smarter. So I'm going to just, okay. Now we are going to move on to preparing our onion. Let me adjust my camera here real quick. Sorry about that. Now, I recently, as I mentioned in a previous episode, the one where I made the Provençal vegetable soup with the pesto, a new and better way of chopping onions, which I'm going to demonstrate again. First, we take out the outermost layer. Now, instead of going all the way across, the way I learned from watching an episode of The French Chef with Julia Child is you only go nearly all the way across. You leave a little bit at the back here. That holds the onion together while you chop it. Oh, almost messed up there. Then it helps keep the onion together as you chop it. It's not falling and scattering all over the place. And when you do get to the final part, you don't have all that much to worry about keeping together. And that, I think, I'm almost ashamed I didn't think of it myself, actually. Yeah, Julia Child has become an obsession, I suppose. Once I finished my current book that I'm working on, my plan, I mentioned this to a friend of mine, is to get a copy of Mastering the Art of French Cooking. And then it'll take a lot longer than a year, I'm sure, because I only really do this maybe once a week. Although I might start cooking more often, you never know. Is to cook my way through that book the way Julie Powell did in the movie Julie and Julia. It might be fun. And if nothing else, I will learn to cook some pretty good food. we have it. 1 chopped onion, which then goes into the slow cooker with our cauliflower. Move this a little bit and angle the camera down. We're now going to add 4 cups of chicken broth. Now this is out of a store-bought. There is a way to make chicken broth in this cookbook, which I might try one day, but I don't have the time right now. Now the book says that if 4 cups is not enough, to add water until the cauliflower is just covered. So we're going to add some water here, which turns out to be a full 4 cups. So 4 cups of chicken broth, 4 cups of water. Let's try to get that all down in there. It's going to be a very thick, delicious soup. And now we're going to add some of our seasonings here. I don't want to add too much, so I'm just going to add 1 teaspoon of the onion salt, which I'm now using as a salt substitute. One of the things I learned when I was at the hospital for my gallbladder was that my blood pressure was a bit high normal, but the doctor said it was higher when I was in recovery and while I was waiting for surgery, most likely because of something he said was called white coat hypertension, which is a way of saying hospitals and doctors make me nervous and makes my blood pressure spike. So lowering it with a little less sodium in the diet is still going to be a good thing. I want to stir this up. And note, I am using sodium-free chicken broth. And if it's not enough salt, you can always add salt once it's in our bowls. Okay. This part is the easiest. We just plug it in. If you'll excuse me for a second, I hit manual. Make sure we're in camera range. Manual, set the temp on low, and we will be cooking on low for 5 hours. See you in 5. Okay, so far it's only been 3 hours and 15 minutes, but I wanted to give this a good stir. And because, oh, that smells so good. You can smell the onions and the chicken broth and the cauliflower, which usually doesn't have a rather pleasant smell when it's cooking at this stage, but this smells pretty good. Take a little bit of the broth here and see what it tastes. I'm going to give it a little bit of actual salt, not a whole lot, but just a little. Okay. Back in about 2 hours. And now, if I was going to call any part of this process difficult, it would be this part, where I strain out the solid bits of the soup so I can run them through the food processor. Now the easiest way I find to do it is to in a large colander set in a larger bowl. Pardon my arm. I'll move a few things around here. Then 1, 2, 3, put that here for just a minute. This bowl is very hot. Okay, move that out of the way for now. Here we see, as I adjust the angle of the camera, my wonderful food processor, which large spoon and put my oven mitt back on because put that in here. Okay, now we're going to have to do this in batches, so, no, sorry about that. Now we're going to take some of the liquid, after I get a measuring cup, and we're going to put it in with our solid bits. To help with the liquefaction of the whole process. This part you don't really need to measure, just eyeball it, and when you think you've got enough, see how it works. Now we puree. Okay, that could use a little bit more puree. Now we pour the pureed part back into the slow cooker. This reminds me of the most, I suppose, is when I've made mock mashed potatoes with cauliflower. That's what this reminds me. It's what it looks like a little, but much more soupy. Because it's a soup. Now we just need some liquid. Now the rest of it, before we puree that part, we're going to put back into our slow cooker. Okay, that smells so good. thought you didn't see, you heard it, but you didn't see that part. Now, we get 1/2 cup heavy cream. There we go. The cap didn't want to come off. Now we add our cream and we stir that into the soup. Now here's a little trick. You see you've got all that cream still on the cup. What you do is that gets out more of the cream. It's the same thing as putting a little bit of water in the spaghetti sauce jar. To make sure you get all the sauce that clings to the side of the jar. Same principle. Now, let's move this a little here. Take a little, see if it needs anything extra. Okay, that could use a little bit more salt. Not a whole lot, but we're going to start with a teaspoon. I don't suppose that's going to be too much, considering this recipe is for approximately, let me see here, what does it say? For approximately 8 servings. So that's really just 1/8 of a teaspoon per serving. Oh, so much better. Yeah, that really brings it out. Now, if you'll excuse me for just a minute. Okay, we're going to ladle in our soup. Now excuse me. I'm going to garnish it with some of our lovely chives. And now, as the pièce de résistance, since this is cauliflower soup with caviar, now we'll be using some pink caviar, but you can use black if you like. It's all good. Just put a little, whoop. Doesn't really float on top, but that's okay. Let's give it a little bit of extra here. We know it's in there, and that's the important part. So, now we get to go eat our soup. Okay, as I always say, this is my favorite part. We get to eat the soup. I'm going to stir it a little bit to sort of mix in the caviar so I get a little bit with every bite. Oh, that is good. Next time, when I make this, I'm going to add a little bit of garlic because I think that would give a little extra something to it. But it's very good and tasty. The cream gives it a nice buttery flavor. And the caviar gives it an interesting added bonus. Also, it adds a little extra salt. That's why you don't want to add too much salt to begin with, because the caviar will give you some more. And the bread tastes good when you dip it in the salt. I mean the soup. So, I'm going to enjoy this. Anyway, that is the recipe for tonight. Cauliflower soup with caviar. I hope you enjoyed watching as much and had as much fun as I did making it, and I hope to see you next time. Until then, always remember, eat and enjoy.